Previously, Lena, Eli, Maya, and Ranger had finally pulled the last piece of evidence from deep inside the system, proof that could bring Malone down for good. But just as victory seemed within reach, the sound of engines closed in, and the warehouse doors began to shake. What happens next will push them to the edge, and there's no turning back. Stay with Silent Stories. You won't want to miss what happens next. Think of this as working with gold, Riley murmured, plugging in the drive. If this gets out, it won't just bring Malone down, it'll take the whole network he's protecting with him. The files blinked to life, dozens of folders, each packed with hundreds of videos and documents. Eli clicked on one at random. The screen filled with shaky, rain-smeared bodycam footage. A man's voice. "Bring the kid closer to the fence, they'll come out." Lena's chest tightened. Maya's face flashed in her mind, followed by the sound of Ranger barking that night. In the video, a dog lunged forward, then was yanked back hard. A sharp cut-off yelp, and the footage ended abruptly. Eli shut it down, his hand curling into a fist. Riley's gaze moved between them. There's more, and it's worse. Clip after clip flickered on the screen. Late-night sweeps. On homeless encampments, kids shoved into the mud. Veterans in cuffs for refusing to leave condemned buildings. Then came a string of internal emails, Malone's own orders, showing how eviction targets were chosen not for safety, but for prime real estate value. Lena felt something cold settle deep in her bones. This wasn't one man's corruption. This was policy. A machine. Riley opened one last file and froze at the header, Internal Report, Classified. She glanced at Eli for permission. He nodded. It wasn't footage or photos, just a list of names. People who had spoken out against Malone, filed complaints, or helped journalists investigate him. Many were crossed out with notes beside them. No longer an issue. Lena's throat went dry as she scanned the list. She recognized a neighbor from her mother's old block, a veteran she'd met at a memorial. All gone from the news, from the streets, like they'd never existed. And at the very bottom, one name sat alone, no notes. No strike through. Maya Daniels. No one spoke. The wind rattled the metal siding like a warning. Lena broke the silence. "We're out of time. He's going to move on her soon." Riley shut the laptop and pulled the drive free. "Then we hit first." Eli nodded slowly, his gaze locking on Lena. "This time, there's no way back." Lena looked toward the dark outside, where the street lamp's glow flickered like it was breathing. The fear was still there, but so was the anger, burning hotter than it had in months. She knew that even if it meant giving up the life they'd once dreamed about, they had to see this through. Because now, it wasn't just about Malone anymore. It was about every single name on that list. Especially the one too young to understand just how ruthless the world could be. The warehouse felt colder once the decision was made. No one said it out loud, but they all knew what it meant. By morning, they'd be on Malone's radar in a way they'd never been before. The man could smell defiance like blood in the water. Riley started pacing, rubbing her hands together. As if that would warm them. "We can't just dump this online. If we do, it'll get buried, discredited, scrubbed clean before sunrise." Eli's voice was low, deliberate. "Then we give it to someone who can't be silenced." "That's a short list," Lena muttered. "Short's fine," he replied. "We only need one name that sticks." Riley stopped pacing. "There's a reporter, Quinn Alvarez. He's been chasing city corruption for years. Malone's tried to sue him twice and lost both times. If anyone can get this out without it disappearing, it's him." Lena frowned. "And if Malone gets to him first?" Riley's expression darkened. "Then we're already too late." They spent the next hour sorting through the files, tagging the ones that were bulletproof clear footage, undeniable orders, audio so clean it could cut glass. Every new piece of evidence tightened the knot in Lena's chest. It wasn't just that Malone was dirty, it was how much of the system bent to protect him. Judges, council members, other cops who'd learned to look away. By the time the hard drive was ready, the sky outside had gone from black to deep blue. Dawn was close. "We move now," Riley said, sliding the drive into a padded case. "Quinn's office is in the old Gazette building, 3rd floor. We don't call, we just show up." Eli slung his bag over his shoulder, but his eyes lingered on Lena. "You don't have to come. This is the point where people vanish." Lena held his gaze. "Exactly why I'm coming." They left the warehouse just as the first light hit the street. The city felt different in that hour, quieter, but somehow sharper, like it was waiting. Halfway to the Gazette, Riley took a hard turn down a side street. In the mirror, Lena caught the gleam of headlights trailing them. The car kept its distance, but never far enough to be coincidence. Riley's jaw tightened. "We've got a tail." Ayla reached for the glove compartment, pulling out a small black case, just a camera. But the sight of it made Lena exhale. If they were going to be hunted, they'd make damn sure someone saw it. The car behind them changed lanes, then cut off onto another street. But the damage was done, the message was clear. Malone already knew. When they finally parked outside the Gazette, Quinn Alvarez was already waiting at the door. He looked tired, unshaven, but his eyes were alert. "You're late," he said, glancing toward the street as if checking for ghosts. Riley handed him the case. "This is everything. If you're going to run it, you run it fast." Quinn didn't. "Open it. You've got maybe 12 hours before he tries to bury this. After that," he shrugged. "Well, I hope you've got somewhere to run." Lena stepped forward. "We're not running." For the first time, Quinn smiled. Not a happy smile, more like the grim curve of someone who knows a storm's coming and plans to walk into it anyway. "Good, because once this goes live, neither is he." Quinn didn't waste time. Within 20 minutes, he had the Gazette's dusty back office turned into a war room. Coffee cups stacked in precarious towers. 2 laptops open, one for the article draft and another solely for uploading the raw files to multiple encrypted mirrors. He didn't just plan to publish, he planned to flood the city with it. The videos, the emails, the list of names, every piece would be available in case one server mysteriously went down. While Quinn worked, Riley kept watch at the window, her eyes scanning the street like a sniper. Eli stayed glued to his phone, setting up anonymous alerts in case anyone tried to track their location. Lena paced, unable to shake the image of Maya's name sitting alone at the bottom of that list. 2 hours later, the article went live. Quinn didn't give it a subtle title. The headline blared across the Gazette's front page. "City's top cop tied to illegal operations, targeting homeless, veterans, and children." Within minutes, the comments section exploded. The story began trending locally, then regionally. By the time the first TV station called Quinn for a live interview, it had jumped to the national feed. That's when the calls started. Riley's burner phone lit up unknown numbers, one after another. Text messages with no words, just single images. A street corner Lena recognized, a playground bench, a rust-red pickup truck that belonged to Eli's neighbor. "Jesus," Riley muttered. "He's not even trying to hide it." Eli's jaw clenched. "He's showing us he can touch anyone we care about." Then came the news alert. Malone was holding a press conference. Quinn turned the volume up on the small TV in the corner. Malone stood at the podium, calm, even smug. He denied everything. Called the evidence fabricated by fringe activists. Claimed the footage was taken out of context, but his eyes didn't match his words. They burned with the cold fury of someone who'd just been hit in the one place he thought was untouchable. Quinn leaned back in his chair. "He's going to come for me first." "That's fine. But you three, he'll come for you in ways you won't see coming." As if on cue, the power flickered. The hum of the computers died for a heartbeat, before the backup generator kicked in, Riley moved away from the window. "We've got to move now." They packed in silence, every sound magnified, the zip of a bag, the click of a latch. Outside, the street looked the same as it had an hour ago. Too much the same. When they stepped out, Lena noticed a man leaning against a lamppost, reading a newspaper, or pretending to. His eyes tracked them as they passed. At the corner, another man stood smoking, his phone angled just enough to capture. Their faces, Riley didn't speed up, didn't slow down. "Smile," she whispered. "If they want to film us, let's give them something to remember." They walked on, each step heavier than the last. Somewhere behind them, a camera shutter clicked. And somewhere far ahead, the war they'd just started waited with open jaws. The first hit came faster than any of them expected. By nightfall, local news anchors were reading from what looked like a carefully scripted leak, an exclusive tip, claiming Lena, Riley, and Eli were part of an extremist cell responsible for multiple acts of vandalism and arson. Grainy surveillance stills flashed across the screen, 3 hooded figures caught in the act of setting fire to a storage unit. The timestamp was recent, the location conveniently close to a police substation. Lena's stomach turned. "That's not us. That's not even my build." "They don't care," Riley said flatly. "They're not showing that footage to prove it's true. They're showing it so people want to believe it." Eli muted the TV. "It's a smokescreen. He's distracting from the article. And it'll work if we don't hit back." Quinn, pacing with his phone in hand, looked grim. "You can't hit back right now. If you get caught on the street, they'll arrest you on sight. And you know damn well the holding cell won't be safe." The lights in the office flickered again twice this time, before stabilizing. Lena didn't miss the way Quinn glanced at the breaker box, like he was wondering if someone was tampering with the power. Then the second blow landed. Riley's burner buzzed, and she stepped into the hall to answer. When she came back, her face had gone pale under the dim office light. "They've taken Maya." For a moment, no one moved. "What?" Lena's voice cracked on the word. Riley's jaw was tight. 2 plainclothes pulled her from the shelter. "Told the staff it was for protective custody, no paperwork. No warrant." Lena was already moving, grabbing her jacket. "We're going now." Eli caught her arm. "You walk out there without a plan, you'll both disappear." Lena yanked free. "She's a kid, my kid. And Malone's had her name on a goddamn list for weeks." Quinn stepped between them. "He wants you to do this. That's the trap. He knows you can't stay put, and the moment you show your face," he shook his head, "he won't even have to fake the charges." Lena felt the heat rise in her chest, that dangerous mix of rage and panic. "So what do we do? Just wait until she turns up in the morgue." Riley leaned over the table, pushing the hard drive toward Quinn. "Keep pushing the story. Make it too loud for him to hide. The rest of us, we find her." Eli looked from Riley to Lena, then gave a sharp nod. "We split. I've got someone who can track movement through city cameras. Not official access, but let's say it's creative." Quinn didn't like it, but he didn't argue. "You've got maybe 1 day before the city swallows her whole. And if you're not careful," his eyes found Lena's, "it'll swallow you too." Outside, the night had settled in heavy and airless. The street lamps buzzed with static, the kind you only noticed when you were already on edge. Lena pulled her hood low and kept walking, the weight of Malone's shadow stretching longer with every step. She didn't know how they'd find Maya in time. She only knew they had to, because the alternative wasn't something she could survive. The trail started with a glitch. Eli's contact, some hacker who called himself Finch, managed to scrape 30 seconds of footage from a city traffic cam before it mysteriously went offline. The grainy video showed Maya between 2 men in plain clothes, crossing a street near the old industrial quarter. She looked confused, but she was walking, not dragged. That detail made Lena's skin crawl even more. They're making it look voluntary, Finch said through the tinny speaker on Eli's phone. That way, if anyone asks, they can say she came along willingly. Cops love that trick. Rayleigh was already tracing the route on a printed map. Industrial Quarters A. Dead zone at night. If they've got her there, it's because they don't want eyes. Lena's eyes locked on one particular block. There, the old Mills Freight Warehouse. Malone used it for canine training years ago. Riley looked up sharply. And how do you know that? Because Max. Lena's throat tightened at the name of her old partner, the dog she'd had to give up when she left the force. Max was trained there. And Malone liked to borrow the facility for things he didn't want on paper. They didn't waste time. The warehouse sat in a strip of decaying buildings, the kind of place that felt like it had been abandoned decades ago, but still hummed with the wrong kind of activity after dark. They parked 2 blocks away, killing the lights. The air was cold, damp with the smell of rust and old oil. Lena could hear the faint hum of a generator somewhere up ahead. They approached on foot, sticking to the shadows. The building's windows were mostly black, except for one on the second floor where a thin strip of light leaked through. Riley put a hand on Lena's arm. I'll take the side entrance. You and Eli go around back. If they're using her as bait, they'll be expecting you to charge the front. Lena nodded, though every nerve screamed to run straight and dot around back. Eli found a rusted service door hanging slightly ajar. The hinge gave a faint groan as they slipped inside, swallowed immediately by the stale darkness. The smell hit first oil dust, and something faintly chemical. They crept down a narrow corridor until a faint noise made Lena freeze. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing off the concrete. A shadow moved at the far end of the hall. It wasn't Maya. Too tall. The man stopped, his voice carrying low and smooth. You're late, Lena. Malone stepped into the thin wash of light from a high window. His suit was immaculate, his smile almost lazy. You've caused me a great deal of trouble. And for what? A kid you barely know? A reporter who'll be discredited by morning. Where is she? Lena's voice was tight enough to cut steel. Malone tilted his head, mock thoughtful. Safe, for now. But safety is conditional. Eli shifted beside her, but Malone's eyes didn't move from Lena. You know, I could make this very simple. You walk away. You disappear. Maya goes home, none the wiser. Or, his smile thinned. You keep playing hero, and she becomes my next cautionary tale. The corridor seemed to shrink, the air pressing in. Lena took one slow step forward. You put one mark on her, and I will burn everything you've ever touched. For the first time, Malone's smile faltered. It was only for a second. But Lena saw it, the flash of something cold and calculating giving way to genuine uncertainty. And she knew then that she had a chance. Lena didn't blink. Somewhere in the shadows, Ranger gave a low, rolling growl. It was deep enough to vibrate in her ribs, a sound that made even Eli shift his weight. Malone's eyes flicked toward the darkness where the dog waited. Ears forward, body coiled like a spring. I see you brought a friend, Malone said lightly, but Lena caught the faint tightening of his jaw. This isn't just a friend. She replied, You remember Max, don't you? You trained him here. Ranger learned from him. That landed. She could see it in the microsecond pause before Malone answered. He knew exactly what Max had been capable of: silent takedowns, precision bites, never releasing until commanded. And he knew that kind of training didn't disappear. You're bluffing. Am I? Lena took another step closer, and Ranger followed, his nails clicking once against the concrete before he went silent again. You remember how you like to run off-the-record exercises in this building? I do too, and Ranger knows every damn corridor in here as well as I do. Malone's posture shifted just slightly, subtle, but Lena recognized it. He was recalculating. And that meant he was worried. From somewhere above, a faint sound echoed quick. Light steps, Maya. Lena would have known that pattern anywhere. Malone heard it too, and his smirk returned. You won't reach her in time. She's not alone up there. Lena didn't wait for him to finish. She snapped her fingers once. Ranger shot forward, a streak of muscle and fur, disappearing into the corridor's darkness. A sharp bark followed. Then the sound of someone shouting in surprise. Malone swore under his breath and lunged to block her, but Eli was faster. He slammed his shoulder into Malone's chest, driving him back into the wall. Lena sprinted, her boots pounding the old concrete, turning the corner just in time to see Ranger holding a man pinned against the wall by his forearm, teeth bared but not breaking skin. Maya stood a few feet away, eyes wide, her small hands clenched into fists. Lena! She gasped. Lena was already at her side, pulling her close, scanning for injuries. Are you hurt? Maya shook her head quickly. He said you weren't coming, that you didn't care. Her voice trembled. Never believe him, Lena said fiercely. Not about anything. Behind them, Eli's voice rang out. We've got company. Boots thundered on the stairs, more men, moving fast. Lena looked at the only exit and knew they couldn't outrun all of them. She crouched to Maya's level. Stay behind me. Keep your hand on my jacket. Then she called, sharp and clear, Ranger Guard. The dog swung to the base of the stairs, planting himself broadside, ears flat, teeth flashing in the half-light. The first man to round the corner stopped cold, swearing, his courage faltering at the sight of 200 pounds of muscle, ready to tear him apart. It bought them seconds, precious seconds. Enough for Eli to pull a side door open, revealing a narrow exterior stairwell leading into the cold night. Go! Lena urged, ushering Maya through. The night air hit her like a slap, sharp and bracing. But as her boots hit the cracked pavement outside, she knew this wasn't over. Malone wouldn't give up, not after she'd humiliated him in his own hunting ground. No. This was just the first real punch. And the next one, she suspected, would hit harder. They didn't stop moving until the orange glow of the warehouse was a distant smear in the dark. Riley was waiting in the car 2 blocks away, engine running, eyes scanning every shadow. When she saw Maya tumble into the back seat, she exhaled so hard her breath fogged the window. Jesus, you got her. She looked at Lena in the rear view. But you need to see this now. She reached over and turned up the radio. A news anchor's voice came through, crisp, urgent, and dripping with the kind of manufactured outrage Lena knew too well. Sources confirmed the suspects, identified as former officer Lena Ward, journalist Riley Chun, and ex-military contractor Elijah Kane, were involved in an armed break-in at a city-owned property earlier this evening. The group is believed to have assaulted multiple officers and abducted a minor from protective custody. Maya's head jerked up. That's not true. They know that, Riley said, jaw tight. But they also know it doesn't matter. Eli swore under his breath. This isn't just Malone covering his ass. This is him going public making. Sure, every badge in the city comes down on us. Lena's fingers clenched on the door handle. She could almost see Malone's smirk in her mind, him in some quiet office, glass of whiskey in hand, watching the city turn against her and reel. Time, turn it off, Lena said. Riley hesitated, then killed the radio. The sudden silence made the hum of the tires on asphalt feel deafening. From the back, Maya's voice was small. Does this mean we're the bad guys now? Lena turned to look at her, the streetlights sliding shadows across the girl's face. No, it means the bad guys are scared enough to lie. They switched cars twice that night, thanks to Quinn arranging 2 anonymous drop-offs in empty parking garages. Each change felt like shedding a layer of safety, the city's cold air sinking deeper into Lena's bones. By the time they reached Quinn's safe house, a squat brick building with no sign and blackout curtains on every window, Lena could feel the fatigue pulling at her. Not just physical, but the kind that settled in your chest when you realized you were no longer just fighting a man, but a story. Inside, Quinn had 2 laptops open, screens filled with feeds of news channels, police, scanner transcripts, and social media posts. The narrative was already moving faster than they could counter. "They've got people sharing the warehouse footage," he said without looking up. "It's cropped shaky, but it's enough for them to say you kicked in a door and sixed a dog on an officer." "That officer was about to grab Maya," Lena said. "Doesn't matter. They'll slow it down, freeze the frame, and push the angle that makes you look like a criminal. They've done it before. They'll do it again." Maya was curled up in the corner with Ranger's head in her lap, stroking his fur absently. The dog's eyes stayed fixed on Lena, as if waiting for her to make the next move. Lena finally said, "Then we change the angle." Riley looked at her. "Meaning what?" "Meaning we stop running. We hit back louder than they can shout over." Quinn leaned back in his chair, giving a low whistle. "If you're serious, that's going to take more than one good story. You'd need evidence so strong it punches through this smear campaign in one shot." "I have it," Lena said quietly. The room went still. "It's on the drive I kept from my last day in the department." She continued, "Everything Malone. Buried unreported incidents, payouts, training violations, even a file on Max's injury. I kept it in case I ever had to prove what kind of man he really is." Quinn's eyes narrowed. "And you think this is that time?" Lena didn't hesitate. "I know it is." Quinn swiveled one of the laptops toward Lena. "If you've got it, we need to get it in front of the right people. That means off the grid, no public upload where it can be flagged or taken down in minutes." "I'm not giving it to the press," Lena said. "Not yet. We go to someone Malone can't touch, even if he tries." "Good luck finding someone like that in this city," Riley muttered. "I already have," Lena replied. "Retired judge. Named Marlowe. He's been calling out department corruption for years. He's got a network, and he doesn't scare easy." Quinn's fingers flew over the keyboard. "I can set a meet, but it's going to mean moving fast. Malone's going to know you've got something. He'll try to burn you before you can use it." As if on cue, the burner phone in Lena's pocket buzzed. No caller ID, just a single text. "Nice rescue. Shame about your mother." Her stomach dropped. "Lena?" Eli's voice sharpened. She turned the screen toward him. His jaw tightened. What the hell does he mean by that? "My mom's in a nursing home across town," Lena said, already moving toward the door. "He's telling me he can get to her." "Then it's a bluff," Riley said quickly. "You can't." The phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. Her mother, pale and small in her bed, with a man in a maintenance uniform standing just inside the doorway. His face was obscured, but his stance screamed threat. Ranger's ears went up at Lena's sharp inhale. Quinn cursed under his breath. "That's not a bluff. He's splitting your focus, make you choose between the evidence and your family." Lena's voice was steady, but her hands were already pulling on her jacket. "Then we don't choose. We split. Riley, you take Maya. And Ranger to Marlowe. Eli, you're with me." Eli didn't even pause. "Done." Quinn's eyes flicked between them. "You're both assuming Malone hasn't already set up a second trap. He's counting on you moving in reaction to him." Lena met his gaze. "And I'm counting on him underestimating how fast I can hit back." They moved in minutes, 2 vehicles, opposite directions, burner phones on silent. Lena's route to the nursing home felt like driving into a storm. Every red light a threat, every passing headlight a possible tail. When they arrived, the parking lot was half empty, the building's front entrance lit in the sterile glow of fluorescent bulbs. Too quiet. Inside, the night nurse barely looked up. "Visiting hours are over." Lena flashed her old badge, not to assert authority, but to buy speed. "I'm here for Margaret Ward, now." The nurse's expression didn't change, but she pointed down the hall. Room 112, she's asleep. Lena didn't believe that. For a second. She moved quickly, Eli at her back, his hand near the concealed holster under his jacket. The door to 112 was ajar. Lena pushed it open to find her mother alone, sleeping peacefully, the room empty except for the soft hum of a heart monitor. Eli scanned the bathroom. The closet, nothing. On the pillow beside her mother's head was a folded piece of paper. Lena opened it with careful fingers. 4 words, handwritten in a looping scrawl. Wrong choice, Officer Ward. From outside. Tires screeched. Eli's gun was out before Lena reached the window. Below, in the dark lot, a car was pulling away fast. Headlights still off. He looked at her. "We're not catching them now." "No," Lena said, her voice low. "But they just told me exactly how much they're willing to escalate." She slid the note into her pocket. Malone wasn't just coming for her reputation anymore. He was declaring war on anyone she cared about. And that meant the next move had to end this. By the time Lena and Eli got back to the safe house, the air inside was taut with urgency. Riley was pacing with a phone pressed to her ear, Ranger lying at her feet but alert, his gaze flicking to the door the instant Lena stepped in. Quinn was still at the laptop, his eyes scanning a stream of encrypted messages. "Marlowe's in," he said without preamble. "But he's insisting on meeting in person, tonight." "Where?" Lena asked. "Old courthouse downtown. He still keeps an office in the back, says it's secure." Quinn's fingers hesitated over the keys. "He also says you're all ready. On the evening news in 3 states. Malone's pulling strings outside city limits." Riley hung up. "I just spoke to one of Marlowe's old clerks. He swears Marlowe can get this in front of the Federal Oversight Board by morning, if we give it to him now." Lena didn't have to think. "Then we go now." They moved with a rehearsed rhythm flash drives into a waterproof pouch. A printed dossier as backup. Maya bundled into the rear seat with Ranger beside her, like a 4-legged wall of muscle. Drive downtown was a blur of sodium lights and cold wind funneling between buildings. The courthouse loomed ahead, its stone facade dark except for a single light in the upper windows. Marlowe was waiting just inside the side entrance, a tall man in his 70s with iron-gray hair and the kind of presence that could hush a courtroom. Without a gavel, he ushered them in quickly, locking the heavy door behind them. "I've heard the official version," he said, leading them down a narrow hallway. "I assume you've brought me the truth." Lena handed him the pouch. "Everything. On Malone, from before I left the force to now. Enough to sink him and half his network." Marlowe took it without ceremony, but Lena saw the flicker of something in his eyes, recognition, maybe even respect. "I'll get this to the board. But you need to understand." He stopped, frowning. From somewhere deeper in the building came the faint echo of a door closing. Eli's hand went to his jacket. "You expecting anyone else?" Marlowe shook his head. They moved together toward the sound, footsteps soft on the old tile. The corridor bent around an archive room, its door hanging slightly open. Inside, a man was standing by the far wall, facing a locked file cabinet. He turned slowly when Lena stepped in. "Malone." He smiled, that same thin, patient smile. "You're very predictable, Ward." Eli took a step forward, but Malone lifted a small device in his hand, a phone, screen glowing. "Right now, this is streaming to 3 separate feeds. If I hit one button, the story becomes disgraced ex-cop attacks a retired judge in his own office. You think your file will matter after that?" Lena kept her voice even. "You're running out of moves." Malone's eyes glittered. "You'd be amazed how many moves I still have." Before anyone could answer, Ranger's growl rolled through the room. He was in the doorway behind Lena, hackles up, every muscle wired tight. Malone's eyes flicked toward the dog just as Ranger lunged. The device clattered to the floor. Eli kicked it away, shattering the screen. Malone staggered back, but his composure only cracked for an instant. "This isn't over," he hissed, before slipping through a side exit.